Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent.
Hey guys, welcome back. Knowing your lane is the fastest way to your destination, right? So today what I want to talk to you guys about is really understanding your path, your way, the right course of action to take to get where you want to go. If you are here for the first time, my name is Wade Vincent, and this is the Forever Better Academy podcast, where basically I share with you tools, techniques, and principles that were shared with me that have helped me to become a better version of myself, and that will help you on your own journey of self-mastery. All right, so there are countless roads that you can take, that you can travel, and more than one will take you to your destination, right? If you're of age to drive a car and you've jumped in a car, and the very first thing you do is type into a navigation, say Apple Maps or Google Maps, and it'll show you 3 or 4 different routes that you can take. Which one is potentially faster, which one's got more of a shorter distance, which one has more traffic, and you can choose, right? But ultimately, of those 3 or 4, in that example that the Maps application gives you, they all take you to the same place. They just are different ways of getting there. Right now, if you've driven around anywhere at all, any major city, you'll know this. You've understood this because it becomes instinctual when you're driving. You start to get a sense of shortcuts and ways to do things, or you always have that one way you always go, and it's almost like autopilot where that's the path you take. And if you've ever been driving where you don't even realize that, like sometimes you're almost like on autopilot, right? When you're driving and you're thinking, or you're just singing and listening to some songs, whatever it may be, and then before you know it, you're almost at your destination, and you can't quite recall going through the motions. It's automatic, right? Now, I think the easy way to understand this as an analogy is because we all seek to go somewhere, right? It's almost like an instinct, a built-in desire or want for greater things, or I don't know. I think it's maybe perhaps an evolutionary trait or adaptation where we try to improve and do better, and most certainly that can be visibly seen throughout different generations of society, because I think it was Isaac Newton that said, if I'm great, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And what he means is all the people that have come before us, that have laid those pathways, those lanes, those foundations for us to build upon, for us to travel down, for us to continue paving and further extend those lanes for the ones to come after us, right? It's almost like this, I guess, our nature, right? I would say, right? And we're always seeking better. Right, we look for better ways to do things, more efficient ways. We're always looking to the future. We're forward thinking as a species, right? We always try to find the next step, right? And this is no different, right? Or at least this is a reflection of that behavior, those habits that we live by, and determining what's the right lane for us, right? Each of us has our own lane to travel. Every one of us has a sought after destination that we're looking to ultimately arrive at. And there are many different ways, and sometimes it can be so confusing, right? Like And to go to that example again, right? Do you remember when you first got your license and you jump in a car and you're excited to just be able to drive a car and you have no idea where to go because there's so much possibility. Like it's like this, it's endless, right? It's just the world has suddenly opened up to you. You have all this freedom and you have the vehicle, right? Literally the vehicle that you need to get wherever you want to go. And that realization sometimes is so daunting or overwhelming that you almost become stifled because of so much choice. You don't know where to drive. Like I think when when I first got my license and I was old enough to drive to school in my senior year, and I remember just like when I got my license, it was such a surreal moment where you just jump in the car. And I remember my mum being worried, like, "Oh, you're gonna just go driving?" I'm like, "Yeah, I passed. I got my license. Like, it's a surreal thing. Like, it's no different to really ultimately when you're learning. There's someone in the passenger seat, but the whole time you've been driving, you're controlling the vehicle, so to speak, right? Like, and when you can do that on your own, the first thing I did when we went to school and got my mates and jumped in the car and didn't know where to go. We were just so excited, and we ended up, like, I think we went through a McDonald's drive-through because we just didn't have any sense of like the true freedom and what we could do. So it was just that familiar thing, right? Like, let's go to McDonald's. Ultimately we ended up driving to the beach, and it was fun. Just a cool thing, right? Good memories. Like most of us have those memories of road trips and that when we're kids. And to use the analogy, right? Ultimately, what I'm trying to demonstrate is using the car to demonstrate that there's endless possibilities. Like in life, we have so much choice. Some of us have more choices than others, but ultimately, we all have decisions that we need to make to determine what the next stage, where we're going in our life, where are we headed, right? All of us have to decide that. No matter where we are in the world, we need to determine where we're going. What do we want from our lives? Who do we want to be? When we get there, who's going to be with us, right? Like this, it's really, the future lies ahead, and you see this open road right in front of you, and there's excitement, and there's also fear because you've never traveled that road before, right? And you'll see when you jump onto the road and you see people driving in other lanes, right? In nice cars, and you don't know where they're going, but like it catches your eye, and you think maybe I could go that way, or wow, that person looks like they know where they're headed, right? And you'll start to maybe follow their car, and you end up lost, right? Because you're following someone to their destination, right? It's not your destination, and it's so easy when you're first learning this and really trying to navigate your adulthood as you're becoming a grown up and learning how to be an adult, right? Ultimately, and you're following people because we all learn from example, right? It's a natural thing to know only what we've seen from others, only what we've been told from others, only what we've read about or heard from other people. We learn so much from absorbing and experiencing the environment around us. It's very easy to get distracted or enticed or excited by other people's journeys. And most certainly those are valuable moments to take from and use as examples of what could be. But ultimately those lanes are not ours to travel in, right? You can those people, everyone has their own destination, right? Ultimately, we all have our own destination. We all have a different endpoint that we're looking to reach. And I guess what my point that I'm trying to make is really, if you spend all your time following other people's lanes, following their cars, chasing their car, following their dreams and their goals and their objectives in their lives, you'll never get to your destination, right? You can only watch and see and learn from the experiences of others and the outcomes that they go through, and use them to inform your decisions and determine which lane that you want to travel in, right? Now, and as to talk to that paradox of choice again, as I said, fear of choosing the wrong lane really comes from not knowing where you intend to go, right? Ultimately, because if you think about it like that fear keeps you off the road, right? When you're misinformed or ill-informed about something, and you decide you have an impression of something based upon the limited information and knowledge that you've been presented with, so you can only make a decision that's based upon a very small handful or pieces of information and not get the clear picture. It's very easy to be misinformed in those situations, right? And that's where fear comes into play. And if you're afraid of choosing the wrong lane, and you let that fear take over, you don't pick a lane. But if you know, right, and this is the real key thing, and it takes time. Very few people, I imagine, are born knowing, because you have to experience things and understand and learn to determine what's right for you. Where do you want to go? What are the destinations, right? How do you know what's out there that you would perhaps like to go to? What places are there? What outcomes, what goals, what opportunities exist for me? What are those lanes, right? Now, when you know where you're going, and this is the big thing, when you truly have made that decision, like you've unequivocally determined it, you've made that call and you're committed to that decision, and you know your destination, you're going to end up there no matter which road you take, right? It doesn't matter which lane you travel down, because as I said at the beginning, there are many roads that take us to our destination. So when you know where you're going, the fear disappears, and all the unnecessary routes that you can travel start to fade away as well, right? Like, again, if I use that example of the Maps application, where you don't jump in your car and tell the Maps, hey, take me somewhere, right? It's not going to know. Where's it going to take you? It's just going to spit up a random endpoint destination, and then when you get there, you may or may not like it. And that's a perfect example. There's no way to live your life, right? You cannot live like that. When you use the maps, right, as an example, again, you start with the end in mind, right? And that's a perfect example of one of my favorite books was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right, by Dr. Stephen Covey. And one of the 7 habits is begin with the end in mind, right? Now, why does he say that? Because ultimately, again, we are those forward-thinking creatures. And if we start with the end in mind, we know where we'd like to go, we know where we want to go, we know where we've decided that we're going to end up, we can work backwards from there, right? It's now, and that's how the map is how it works as well, right? Like the application starts at the end point, when you type in your destination, you're not typing in where you are currently. You're typing in or speaking to the microphone where you ultimately want to end up. And then the maps basically uses that, takes that point and works you backwards from there. So as I say, when you type that destination into the application, it begins with the end in mind as well. It knows where you are located currently. You've told it where it wants to go, or where you would like to go, and it basically just plots the course and gives you the 4 or 5 options from where you are to that point. And this is no different, right? Ultimately, and the biggest thing is, if you don't know your destination, you can never arrive. I'll say that again. If you don't know your destination, you can never arrive. I really think about that. How much time do we spend plotting and planning and thinking about what we're going to do on the weekend, or what kind of car we'd like to buy, or what we want for dinner tonight? How many of us take the time and sit down and ultimately determine where we want to end up? Where do we want to go? This is the things I think that they should teach at school. How maybe they do now. They definitely didn't when I was a kid. Where would you like to be at 50? Right? How old would you like to be when you get where you intend to go? Right? And that's a good question as well. Like, we must ask these questions of ourselves, because if we don't, we're never going to get the answers. We can't possibly know, right? And you if you don't know your destination, you can never arrive, right? And when as I said, when you know where you're going, you can end up there no matter what, because the line of sight is clear. You've made the decision. The hardest part has been determined when you've committed to that decision and who you want to be and where you want to go and where you want to be at a certain point in time. You've just got to work towards it. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? It takes work. It requires you to, know your lane. But ultimately, if you have the destination, you can go back from that and choose a lane, right? Now, sometimes you need to chart your own course as well. And this is part of the challenge for those who are bold enough to determine that they want to do something that's never been done before, right? The people that are the true innovators, that have a large and audacious goal that they just decide, I'm going to go all in on this and do something that no one else has ever done, right? And that's the true innovators, the challengers, the ones who lay the path for those to come after us, right? If you have a destination, and it's easy to use, again, the car analogy, right? If your ultimate goal is to go to the beach, and lots of other people know where the beach is, and there's roads that go to the beach, and people can tell you about they've been to the beach, and they can give you directions to the beach. If you've determined you want to go to the beach, you just follow the road. Countless other people have done it. They can show you. Someone can even jump in the car with you and mentor you, guide you, take you to the beach, right? That's very easy to do. That's the easiest, most straightforward example in this case. When you are trying to find the beach and no one knows that there is a beach in this location and there is no road, you have to do the groundwork, like clear the path and lay the foundation and the road for others to follow in your footsteps. That's far more challenging, But I can tell you it's no more challenging than attempting to drive around hoping you end up somewhere. Right? Now, which is harder? Ultimately, like, even as overwhelming and challenging as that seems to have that in front of you, that there's a pathway you want to pave that no one's gone down before, as long as you know your destination, you can find your lane because you can create it. And that's the other beautiful thing. If the lane doesn't exist, it doesn't mean you can't find your lane. You can make your lane. You know your lane because you know your destination. You're determined, you understand this is the end point that I need to reach. You can create the road back from there to where you are. The simplest thing, right, is knowing where you're going, knowing where you are, and shortening the distance between the two. What is the quickest path, the path of least resistance that I can take from here to here? How do I do that in the most effective way? Right? And that's just the end point. That's the afterthought, really, the pathway to take. It's just a necessary part of the plan because you've already determined, right? You know where you are, down here. You know where you're going, up here. And you just follow a lane that exists, or you pave one the whole way through. So either way, you have your lane, right? And this is what it's about. It's so important because it's so easy to get lost, right? I've been lost in my life, and there's another thing, right? It's changing destinations. I've had destinations, and I've followed lanes, and I've created lanes, and I've determined this is my path, and I've gotten close to where I believe the destination was, and then I've determined, sometimes along the way you realize that you no longer want to go to that destination, or that destination might not be right for you. And that's okay. If you make those decisions when you're traveling the path and you realize that this path isn't the right one, you can set a new course. Same as the maps application again, right? You get somewhere and you want to go somewhere different, you set a new destination and it gives you a new path from where you are. There's no lost when you know where you want to go, right? It's only what would you call it? A hold up. It's only a temporary, what would you call, what's the word I'm looking for? A stall, like when you stall, right? I can't think of the word, but time isn't the issue, right? If we're given enough time, if we're blessed with enough time, we can achieve anything we want to achieve. If we know the destination, and we know that it takes, say, 10 years to get there, and we're like 15 years old, then we've got lots of time to get there, right? And if we are 50 years old, and God willing that we still have many years left, and it's a 10-year journey, you can still arrive. There's still plenty of time, right? There's always a way, always a lane, always an opportunity. If you've made that decision where your destination is, you can find your lane, right? And when you arrive, right? This is another thing. When you arrive at your destination, right? You will have this overwhelming sense of joy and achievement because you made it happen. And when you get there, you will be able to show others how to reach that destination. Right? What a wonderful side benefit, an extra bonus from achieving, your goals, reaching your destination, knowing your lane, because ultimately your destination is different to others. But the beauty is you can share your lane, because sometimes traveling most of the way down that lane is for someone else. And then they move to the side and they create a new lane that leads them along the way. But you've opened that opportunity to get them 2/3 of the way to where they need to be, right? And when you do this, you truly become a master of your own destiny and a builder of ways. You create these new paths for people and opportunities that may never have existed, or if they did exist, you've just reaffirmed and shown others and set that example for those to follow in your footsteps. And I know the times that I was unsure of my destination, the most natural thing that I followed when I didn't know where to go, where I was at the time, I looked to see who is where I want to be. How did they get there? What's the lane to travel? What road did they take? Right? And I follow the path, and sure enough, I arrived where I wanted to arrive. And now that I'm here in this position, I find other destinations that I want to go to, because life is limitless. Where you want to go and where you want to end up, you can create new opportunities, new destinations, and share those with other people. So while I'm here on today's episode, I want to give that to you guys and see if there's a lane that I've traveled that might be beneficial to you guys. All right, so don't forget, start with the end in mind, right? Know your destination and find your lane. Forget what other people are doing that are going in different directions that look appealing. If it's not your destination, that's not your lane. All right, who could you become? This is Wade Vincent. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you guys being here each week. And until I speak with you again next week, have a blessed week. Plan your trip. Make sure you know your destination and start looking for the ways to get there. All right, guys. Thanks again.